Yo, what's up, YouTube? No, for real though, we're just a quick recording here, casual walkthrough of some thoughts I have regarding how to play well as a team and some things to eliminate from your game and some things to be aware of to make your play better and be a better teammate during active gunfights. Obviously, there's differences between being a good teammate between good fights and being one. During this particular video, we'll look at the kind of comms and positioning and just general team awareness that can go into winning a gunfight when you're kind of going up against an uphill battle. Sometimes it could be very easy to win a gunfight as a team and feel good about what you're doing. So I think one of the best ways to really learn is to look at a moment where you did something wrong and try to learn, okay, what could I have done differently here? What habits am I leaning back on in this moment that really try and or really can hurt my teammates. So in this particular clip, this is from my stream. I have just been bought back. I'm playing with Randy and Reformed. I know the names are kind of hard to see. It's a little blurry. I just got bought back, and I landed in this building because I got loadout and then pushed in here, and I had gotten ghosted OTS for no particular reason at all. Just kind of trolling, honestly, and there happened to be an AMAX in here, and so I picked it up. I didn't have fully loaded set up, obviously, because I ran Ghosted SMG, and so I don't have any AR ammo. Reformed here is the blue arrow on the screen. I'll be referring a lot to in this video. I'll be looking a lot at the radar on the top left of the screen, as well as just looking in general at the map. I will say this. The point of this video is to highlight something that one of my teammates, Reformed, did during this that I think hurt the gunfight. I'll be spectating him, and I can kind of show what that thing is. So the purpose of this video is actually to show him something and give him some insight on something. But I figured maybe other people could potentially benefit from watching something like this. Now, we all make mistakes, and I would say our squad is pretty well rounded. Obviously, we're not top tier by any means, but I think we're also a lot better than most of the people out there in terms of combat and skill in general. So that's nothing against us at all, but I think it is important, like I said, to focus on some things that can be done better. So I'm gonna play the video, and I'll pause it as we go through and point some things out. On the loadout? Yeah. Yo, let's freaking go. All supply boxes restocked. Okay. Actually. Okay, so I think I was gonna go OTS. It looks like I might go carbine here. I'm gonna go. Yeah, okay. I picked OTS. That's what I thought. Right, Randy? I don't know. Okay. Sims are the way to go. They give you a little speed in this game mode, and they help when you're pinched. So here's the thing, teammate Blue Ping here is about to grab the big game bounty. Yeah, I'm cooking some food in the background there. Kind of soup. It's like vegetables with beef sirloin. So I'm just gonna pause it there. Those kind of comms could be good during a game to kind of loosen things up, as long as they're in the right time frame or in the right spot during the game. He pretty much asked that question right as Reform grabs the big game bounty, and we see based on the radar that they are super close, and not only are they close, but they have a vehicle. So I think our conversation changes pretty quick. Yeah, it's pretty nice, dude. We've got 45 rounds of this AMAX, so I'm ready to be in. That bounty's just gonna probably get in the Bertha. Okay, so good comments by Randy. He's basically saying, hey, play for the car, and they might just run away, which means don't play too aggressive for this. They might, if we play too aggro, they could just leave, and we're wasting our time. And if they get pious, they might actually hold us. He's walking up to it right now. I think he saw me. him right there. So right now it's me and Randy are the main two people active on this fight, and Reform's kind of the third back. Just grabbed it, didn't expect it to pull left, and so he is kind of playing the role of taking in information. And as that third person not active in the fight, since we have first advantage, his role, he can kind of play slow and try to get info, or he can play off. Usually what he should be doing is playing off our information, because we actually probably have more information than he will from back here. And by doing so, he might be able to catch one of these guys off guard, or maybe get one rotating out of the back of the building.
His teammate is to the right of the Bertha, sniping.
Yeah, I just heard that.
I don't know how that doesn't hit. I guess I'm just bad at shooting a Panzer, but... I got airstrikes? So we have some live pings, which means we're putting some pressure on. Randy's kind of... At the moment, Randy's kind of held down to some degree. I think he has some cover. He's full place.
Literally did not move whatsoever.
Okay, so there's already an established call about a sniper. Now, I have not seen this sniper. I believe the two of them probably have at this point. So I don't know which player is the sniper. Usually, snipers are more likely to be live ping, so it's possible that the live ping's the sniper. On the Bertha was a call. I think what did I say there? I muted. Let me go back a second. What did I say as response when I downed him?
He's still right here.
Okay, so it's just something as easy as that, right? In a gunfight, if a teammate calls something, give the same location back and give a status on how that player is in terms of the fight. So instead of me saying I downed a guy by Bertha, all I really have to say is because the most recent comm was a live ping on a guy in the Bertha, just Bertha's downed. Yeah, we move on to the next. Well, I'm about to get free beamed right here.
Oh!
And so because of this bush and my perk, I'm able to at least hold this guy off and live ping him.
Down the sniper.
You got my live or no?
Yeah, that was...
So that's where we get a little confusion, because in my fight with him, that guy that I was gunning, which I assumed was the guy that I live pinged, I live pinged through the bush. There could have been two, but I'm playing an AR fight with this guy, right? And I had a bunch of shots on him, and I'm in a pretty bad spot. Now I know that he's running away, and I also know that zone's coming in. So my hopeful play is to be able to push up and get a little bit closer to the building. I can't do that if the guy with the AR is still up. And so I ping the guy. Reform says down the sniper, and there's a little bit of confusion for me. And we talked about this after the game, because I'm not sure if he's downed the original sniper they were talking about, that maybe somewhere else in this building, or if he's downed the guy that I had lived. Why I was confused was because I had not engaged with that guy as him being a sniper. He had an AR at the time, and so I wasn't sure. I didn't want to assume that he had downed the guy holding me.
It's a sniper.
Okay.
Gas.
Okay, good comments by Randy, just to remind everyone. All right, we've got another element to this fight right now, which is there's a storm coming behind us. I think it's 144 left in the rotation, so we're kind of close. We have some time, but it's also going to change how the fight happens. Even if I'm not going to die to zone, the fact that this storm is behind us, all three of us, and no one's nearby, means that they can set up in any of these buildings that are left on the radar. If you look at that top left side of the screen near the buy, they can set up the radar near the zone. And they could set up any of these three houses, and they know that if any of us are on this side, they don't have to play aggressive. They can just wait for us to cross their screen and get info on us. So Randy's call is just as much about getting into zone as it is a reminder of, hey, we've got to play this fight a bit differently, and we're going to have to be the ones playing aggressive here. We can't wait for them to make a play because we're the ones that are coming in behind them. Now, obviously, because it's a bounty, that gives us an element of power position, because there's three of us and we know where this person is. And so as Randy's call, I rushed this fight.
Stuck in a window.
And Randy is currently stuck in a window. So this part right here, I end up dying here. They're kind of farther back. They're watching rotations on the building. And I have one plate.
Bro, I don't see this guy's body, dude. Oh, that's why he's right here.
It's a bad loss by me. I sort of slow peeked it and played him a little bit longer, or waited. Alright, here's the situation. So, we don't know this, but it's only one guy. And I think it's only been one guy the entire time, besides the guy that we killed on the Bertha, that Randy got the finish on. And so Randy's full plates, and I don't know that I gave any comms, which could have been helpful. But honestly, at that point, anything I say, they should already know. He's close on my skull. I was thirsted right away, and me saying too much could make them play a different game. Because I was so separated from them and died before they had a chance to actually be in the fight, and there wasn't anyone else like holding the building, and I didn't get any other information, there really isn't much I can say to help them out. And honestly, at that point, it should be communication between the two of them, and I should not be involved because they're the two that are actually in this fight. Now you see Reformed is checking for a rotation out the backside of the building. He's kind of scanning for any movement and letting Randy play the inside, which could work. The only way that play doesn't work is if there are two people kind of just like ratting inside this building, and because Reform is so far back, trusting that Randy gets the fight here, he doesn't really have time to help if Randy goes down, and is basically forced to just watch his teammate die and then play them. Now, because he wins, they take loot together. Obviously, if you all haven't played the new Warzone map, when you kill a big game bounty, you get advanced up, right? And so immediately we see there's two guys that know we're here from the gunfight, and they're aggro enough to rush us in zone. You got two that are kind of on the hill rushing in, and you've got one that's kind of in this building, looking the same direction.
Yep.
So right here, I think what Reformed is trying to do is get either maybe to the buy or get to an area where he's not going to be rushed all at once. Now, the issue with this potentially is that they have no idea that Reformed is here. You could tell that first by the fact that this advanced UA guy, they're all looking at Randy's building. So there's been no... Reformed hasn't fired a shot. There's no way for them to know, and I believe he has ghosted. There's no way for them to know that he is here. And so by leaving this open line, he's allowing them to take power position on Randy's building. And at the same time, Randy has no ability to make the same movement that Reformed is making, because that window is much smaller for him to make that run than it is for Reformed, because Reformed's already here and Randy's in the building and has to cross over. And they have an eye on the building. So you're gonna hear me call out for him to stay and kind of turn and get a free beam, because he would probably get a shot, or at least get a or slow down the push by one of these three people.
Peek. They're gonna be free minutes.
Instead, he likes this positioning a little bit more, and I think he's looking for that guy that he sees coming in on the ground level to maybe come out the side door. But honestly, there's no reason for any of these three guys to play this side of the building. They're all playing for the building that they last saw the fight happening in. And so there's probably not going to be much action on this side of the building. And you can see here in the UAV, like if you're kind of in this area where you're kind of like idle ADSing, looking for movement, you can kind of flicker your eyes up to that UAV and see the one where your teammate is, where the opponents are. With advantage, you get this unique ability where you can see where the defenders or the opponents are looking, and so immediately you can see that both Randy and this opponent are looking straight at each other. Now, we don't know yet if they can actually see each other. Maybe there's an object in the way, but once we see gunfire, we know, okay, it was that person that I just saw him engaging with. Okay, so there's shots, right? So he knows first person engaged is the basement guy that was first here. The other two have kind of stacked on top of him, right? Now, I don't know. I think Randy may have probably put some bullets into the guy holding. And so this guy's probably called, I can't push. He's broken.
You've got...
Now, so here's the situation, right? This is where kind of it all goes bad in a lot of different directions. So there's a loose guy, the third guy, has kind of a free run to push Randy. There's not really any window for Reform to get a kill. There's a fence, there's trees, there's steps. The only spot he could get it is between this gap of the fence, and that's if he snaps to that. He's only getting like 2 shots in, maybe. And I think Randy here gets a third plate in, so he's got a true 1v1, which shouldn't be a problem. The only thing that he's down by currently is the fact that this opponent that he was shooting at most likely had a live on him or has info. And so this third guy is playing with that information and confidence. And this is where we'll play this clip out.
You can't hold him.
Die here.
Yeah, you gotta help him.
On you.
Yeah, I'm dead.
Okay, so we'll play it out.
I meant push the tree.
Not much happens after this.
Sorry.
He sees people pushing, tries to play it. Kind of he's in a bad spot. They have all sorts of angles on him. There's not really anywhere to hide. His only advantage there is probably ghosted, but that stuff doesn't really matter. So 1v3, you're already in a bad spot. So let's go back to this. Went back a little too far. Hold on. There we go.
Yeah, dude, the one is in.
Okay. So we're here again, right? Now here's where the fight goes wrong. Now the first potential, maybe not really a mistake, was that all that time he spent running along that wall with no visual aid for Randy, who's being held to zone. Again, when people see that there's a zone coming, they're going to play that a lot more passive and just wait for that player to peek. And these 3 guys are not going to rotate into zone until they have a lot of information, or Randy is already basically dead, right? And so the hold that Reform is about to mention, there really isn't one. These 2 guys aren't really going to jump out that window and rush him because they have a free angle from this third guy coming along the backside. And even if they were to run out and rush, maybe he downs 1, but there's still that third guy with an angle that might even shoot him. So letting this third guy back rush Randy again is not a problem. We can let him do that all day. Randy should be able to win that 1v1. But he can't win the 1v1 because there's added pressure from these 2 guys that aren't being suppressed at all. So I think the one tip that is kind of the key to this video in particular is to really be aware of how your actions and your play style and your positioning and the shots that you're taking or not taking impact how the enemy perceives you in the fight. So like I said, in this situation, right, the enemy has no idea that Reformed is here. How does that change the way that they're going to play this fight? Well, those 2 guys in that building only have one job right now, and nothing is distracting them from simply giving comms on where Randy is or giving him live pings or information or holding him, right? So he's got 1 guy pushing him and 2 guys holding him. Now, so what Reform can do in this situation, I believe, he might have either a Cooper carbine or some sort of SMG as a secondary here. He doesn't run Brand Sniper. So he knows that these 2 guys don't have info on him because 1, they haven't peeked him at all. And so he theoretically could use that whole rotation instead of using that whole rotation as a hold mechanic to get behind them in a certain angle. He can actually use that rotation and that time in a useful way of using that as a push behind the people that are playing over aggressive. I would argue that this hold is over aggressive, but the reason that we lost this gunfight was because we didn't take advantage of their overextension by coming in behind them. So he could hop in here, maybe get it down, replate, go back up the steps, and by that time these 2 guys are playing for him, right? Assuming he gets that down without really being hurt much. The second guy most likely is not going to chase because he doesn't want to risk leaving his teammate's body in a room by himself where it could be thirsted. And this third guy may freeze up a little bit because now that there's a second guy in the gunfight, he might not know where the third person is. Right? So just adding all these new pieces of information and kind of playing a surprise mind game with the enemy team can really throw off their ability to make a good play. Right now, they're playing with all sorts of confidence. Now, so my comms, I hear Reform say I can just try and hold them I think there it's more of a question. He's like, I don't know how can I help you in this gunfight? But I also think it's in a way he's recognizing, okay, I don't feel comfortable rushing this building of 3 people because there's no way I'm winning that gunfight. But he has to remember as they're fighting as a team, third guy's taken accounted for, and they're all focusing Randy, and he can take advantage of their lack of focus towards their blind side because he already knows that they're not very smart in terms of being composed or cautious. They rushed zone, right? They rushed into storm to push a fight that was pinging on the map. We're not hunted. There's no UAV up. They're both ghosted. So that's already reckless by them. And now all 3 of them are looking at the last known person, right? So just those small things, you realize, all right, well, maybe I have a room to actually rush behind these people. And now if they had been, kind of set up in buildings, kind of spread out, and the lanes of sight are all kind of watched, and his building is already known, like, that fight changes. The other thing that I'll add to this, if you are that teammate that you're in this position and you've realized you made a mistake maybe, and you don't feel like there's many ways out of it, and you're just trying to kind of salvage an already bad situation, one thing you can do is communicate that by saying something like, I don't have your help. And here, I mean, it doesn't help a ton because I think Randy is, with help or without help, knowing he doesn't have help is not really going to be any different for him than not having help. But there are gunfights where if I think that I have help and I actually don't, I'll be worse off than if I knew I didn't have any help. Because I can really play the fight a lot differently and get more distance and be more cautious. As you can see, when I pushed earlier with 1 plate, I definitely thought that I had more help than I did, and so that's a situation where, Randy's telling me in comms, hey, I'm stuck in a window, and basically I ego chow a spot where I assume somebody's broken or in a defensive position, and I just get beat, right? So you have to be aware of where your help is and how in response to play the gunfight. Now, you hear this again. I say he said I might hold.
You've got to push them. Reformed. You can't hold.
And my comms here are, and you hear Randy saying I'm gonna die, and you see, the one guy looking straight at him and probably in a hallway or something. I think he got stunned too, potentially there. You hear that flash or stun go off. You hear Reform saying I'm gonna hold, and my media comms are recognizing the fact that in this moment, Reform's holding this line of sight is one, he knows right now that he has no line on that back window where this player is hiding, so he should immediately look for another way to engage in the fight. Now, if he was here and he saw the guy that was fighting Reform and can get it down, that's huge. Now, if he were to do that, he would immediately be in a 1v2 with Randy not in position to fight, and have to be aware of that. But he has some time because it's a surprise call, and this guy might not have comms on where he was shot from right away. And that light here was suppressor fire from this direction, and then they're already focused the wrong direction. So he has a window to react. So if there's a way to shoot this guy, maybe it'll work out. The moment that he recognizes there's no way for him to see this man, he hasn't seen this man the whole time, so it probably isn't a great call to try and look for him now. Instead, he should look for the fastest way into the fight with the best advantage, right? And that would be rotating right here and trying to fight these 2 guys from behind. Now, you'll see that maybe one of these guys has turned around, or maybe it's going up steps for a second floor hold. It's hard to say. I think that's maybe what he's doing. But in either way, he has an advanced. Reform has this advanced up and should be able to play these 2 guys. Now, again, another thing that I didn't really harp on earlier is, and he misunderstands my comms to help and plays for the 1v1, which again is just, I think it helps to be more aware of realizing how can I help the 1v1 fight that's happening without actually getting any bullets on that guy, and fighting his teammates. Like, where's my avenue to help in a different way? And that would be by shooting these two guys or playing behind them, or even just walking into their building, to give them something to think about. But again, another thing that I didn't really harp on, when you're recommitting for your teammate, the things that you really need to keep in mind are, am I taking the fastest way to help them? If I'm not taking the fastest way, is there a reason for it? And if I am not going the route, what information could I be missing while I'm going this way? So he's got this whole wall in his right, so they don't see him, which could be helpful. But again, they don't know to look over here. And honestly, even seeing him here could be helpful. They might refocus on him instead of on Randy. But as we're pushing around, right, more wasted time. Now they're both committed to the back of this building. They're both being held instead of him having that power position. Generally, in most gunfights, you almost never want to backtrack the way that you came, just because you're not getting any new information. You're predictable because they know kind of what you're familiar with and what territory you're using in the gunfight, and so you're easier to track. And you haven't really explored any new options, right? So sometimes it's just like trying something different can really be helpful in a gunfight. So I think now in Reform's defense, there's a lot going on. I'm telling him to help, and he interprets that as playing for the solo. And if he's playing for the solo, he already knows that he can't peek him from behind. And he doesn't want to rush across the open because he'll get shot in the back. And so in his mind, the only way to help in this solo fight is to rope back around to where he came from, and hopefully maybe Randy pulls him out of the building or something, and is able to kind of bait this kid into the open for a kill. But instead, they end up both dying in the same place. Now, Randy should win this 1v1. He says this later. And again, maybe he wins it if he has, if these two people are not giving him information on where he is.
I meant push the two, not the one, sorry.
Now, I need to win to give that clarification, but it is good clarification to make. When I'm saying help, I'm not talking about pushing the fight. I'm talking about offering him help in a different way. There wasn't time to completely communicate that in that fight. I knew that holding there wasn't going to do anything, and it's just hard to sometimes communicate that mid fight. So yeah, hopefully that video that was a lot of talking. Really, the only visualizations I wanted y'all to see was the actual positioning of the gunfight and the radar. Now, obviously, you're not going to get an advanced in every single fight that you get into. Obviously, you're not going to have that kind of information on where people are. But generally, I would say if you know that your teammates in a 1v1 and that there are other teammates or other opponents that are teammates with the guy that your teammate is fighting, if that makes sense. So they're in a 1v1 and you know there's other people out there that are potentially receiving information from that opponent that's fighting your teammate. And those people don't have information on you. Generally, the best thing to do there is to look for a way to fight those two people, unless, of course, your teammate is asking for help on the 1v1. But that's kind of the 2 cents for y'all there. And generally speaking, be intentional on what angles you're holding in gunfights, and ask yourself the question, not just what's safe for me and the gun that I have out right now, and the best play for the game, but what's the best play right now? What's the best line to be looking at right now? And do I really think that where I'm looking, they're going to cross my screen? And if they're not, then I'm just going to be sitting here for 10, 15 seconds waiting for them to maybe cross my screen, and if they never do, and you're wasting time, at that point, count to 10 and you're running. Well, you've already wasted time, so you might as well just commit to the spot that you're holding. So there you go. Hopefully that helps. Post in the comments if there's anything that you have questions about that video, or any comments on things that I said that don't make sense, or maybe you disagree with. I also have permission from Reform to use him as an example here, so I'm definitely not just roasting my teammates out of the blue at all. Like I said, we're a good squad, and there's just things that every team can work on, and hopefully this was helpful for you in recognizing some of those things for your own team.